What happens when a pirate prince is the last hope for survival for the most ancient logical race that still exists in Warhammer 40k, maybe save one? This race is one of the most diverse lists that you can build as well, with a lot of different varieties and different twists, especially now that they've kind of merged several of them together. And today we're going to be tackling that lore accurate list. It's based on the book Valedor by Guy Haley. It's a Aeldari novel that kind of tackles as many of the different factions as possible, mentioning the Ynnari, the Harlequins, the Eldar Corsairs, the Drukhari, the Craftworld Eldar. They all play a major part in the story, so it was a fun one to tackle and create a lore-accurate list based on this novel. Now, I wouldn't use this novel as an introduction to Warhammer 40k. It does deep dive the Aeldari, so you get a lot of references to things like the War in Heaven and the Eldari's twisted terminology for Tyranids, and if you don't know who the Tyranids are, you're going to be super confused. But I do love what they've done here. This is definitely a read for Warhammer fans who've maybe read some of the novels, whether that be just the Gaunt's Ghost series or Eisenhorn or the Horus Heresy or anything like that. This is a good addition to your read. It's one of the best Eldar books I've read. It's not a 10 for sure, but it's definitely better than anything else I've read so far. In this novel, we see Prince Uriel returning home to end the Tyranid threat on the former maiden world Duriel. Duriel is currently controlled by the Imperium, but is being ravaged by two separate hive fleets that are looking to merge. And if they merge, they'll envelop Eldar tech, Imperial tech, and a lot of other things that would make them nigh indestructible. So they have to stop them before this can happen. The merging of the two hive minds to create something even more destructive than what they already have. Throughout this, Uriel takes up his famous spear, as well as recruiting allies from every fold of the Eldar world. The Drukhari, the Ynnari, the Harlequins, as well as his craft world that he had been exiled from previously. It leads to a very, very broad structure of the army, which you cannot fit in a 2,000 point army, unfortunately. While I would love to fit all 6 of the Aspect Warrior factions, plus Harlequins, plus Corsairs, plus all of the Wraith stuff that goes on with his the craft world he came from, it's really, really fascinating to try and build an accurate list based on that. Because of that, I had to focus on his craft world and what they bring to the table. So next, let's talk about the army list that we built. But first, we need a word from our sponsor, Dubby.
Oh, sorry about that. Just enjoying a nice, clean Dubby energy. It's our new sponsor on this channel that I'm super, super excited to have involvement with. They're a clean energy company that specializes in unique flavors and a bunch of different varieties of products. In the past, I've had some health problems in my life, and I've become very particular about what I take in. And unfortunately, in the energy world and in the hydration and electrolyte world, it's pretty hard to actually be super detailed without spending a ton of money. And that's why I enjoyed Dubby. They're a very clean and healthy alternative to your big energy drinks like Monster. But on top of that, they're actually designed with electrolytes. They also come with the electrolyte-specific version called Dubby Hydro that is also a big part of what I take in. So I would definitely recommend checking them out at dubby.gg. And if you use code WARGAME, you can get 10% off any of your purchases. I also have a link down below in the description so you can go check out their starter pack.
As a reminder, this video is only going to break down the basic structure of the unit composition of the army. Find the full list in the links below. We have a full army list as well as the cost list, which we will cover in a minute, that breaks down exactly how you're going to build this army and where to find it. The warlord of this army is a pretty simple one. It's Prince Uriel. He was the obvious choice to be the warlord, which kind of sucks because he is out of production currently, so he is very expensive to find. Now, if you're wanting to take this list and drop Uriel because you don't want to spend the money on him, I totally get it. You'll be able to fit in a pretty nice unit in there, whether that be Storm Guardians or another Aspect Warrior faction in his place. And that's great. I think doing that would actually lead to a better army on the tabletop itself. Prince Uriel is pretty decent, but the value he gets per dollar isn't great currently. So I do hope that Games Workshop will reprint him later and we get a plastic version of him instead of the metal version or the resin version that you can find typically on eBay. Now, another big part of this story are the avatars of Cain. We get to see avatars of Cain deployed in the battlefield for each of the craft worlds. So that was another obvious choice, which also dictates which detachment we use. But we'll get to that when we get to the tactics later on as well. On top of that, we also included an autarch. There are multiple autarchs in the stories. It felt right to include one just so we had that coverage as well as that leadership on the battlefield itself. I also included a Farseer. The Farseer, once again, pretty well named and a pretty obvious choice for this fight as well. Next, we move into the actual units. So, in order to accomplish this, I included the Corsair Void Reavers. The Corsairs are a major part of the story. Prince Uriel brought them with him to try and fight the Hive Fleet. I believe it's Hive Fleet Leviathan is the main one they're trying to fight. We also included the Corsair Void Scarred, for the same reason we included the last group of Corsairs as well. Then we do include Rangers. There's several mentions of Rangers throughout this, and the Rangers do play a pretty big part in the battle, providing overwatch and sniping different Tyranid threats in order to protect fleeing Eldar who are trying to reorganize and regroup or escape the multiple times they have to flee the planet. Then we also included the Warlock Conclave. The Farseer and the Warlock Conclave are a major part of the story. I am not going to spoil it because that is a major spoiler for you. I would definitely recommend reading the book to find out why. Because we're dealing with Craft World Iyanden, there will be a lot of Wraith bone and Wraith structures. That is what they're famous for and most known for. Because of this, we're going to have a unit of Wraith Blades and a unit of Wraith Guard. These are going to form the kind of core Terminator structure of our list and will be used to take most of the beating while the other units move around to either accomplish objectives or snipe or pick off things from the edges. We also have a Wraith Knight. The Wraith Knights are another big part of the story and were a kind of required choice. One of the secondary characters is a pilot. Well, two of the secondary characters are pilots of a large Titan, which we can include just purely by points wise, but they do tie into Wraith Knights later. We also have a Wraith Lord, who's another big part of the story. Actually, probably one of my favorite parts of the story, to see how those actually function. Prior to reading this book, I'd always thought the Wraith warriors were always just semi-conscious zombies, almost like the Rubik's Marines. But no, they're living, breathing, talking, have personalities and emotions, and that was really, really cool to see. Now, we did include some Skyweavers to bring out that Corsair side. They're referenced repeatedly throughout the fights as well, and were an obvious choice. On top of that, we do have Warwalkers. The depiction of the Warwalkers in this was actually really cool too. I'd always wondered why they were so lightweight, chicken-y type walking beasts instead of like this armored sentinels that you see with the Imperial Guard. But seeing how they're supposed to be used in this book made them make a lot more sense to me. They're designed to run through very, very hostile terrain, hopping and acting almost like mountain goats, moving to different firing positions to pick off the enemies on their flanks and edges where they don't expect to be attacked from. And that idea is really cool. It makes me really, really like the Warwalkers considerably more than I did in the past. I kind of regularly thought that they were pretty dumb and included them in my little brother's army, but they were just kind of there. They're not super strong, but they're not supposed to be operated like you would Dreadnoughts as Space Marines or any of the other bigger units that you see, whether it be Imperial Knights or something like that. They're not meant to do that. They're almost meant to act kind of like fast-moving Rangers that move into a position and then snipe. So learning that was really cool and made me want to include it purely for that reason, just to see how it would play on the tabletop. And finally, I'd included a Wave Servant to transport some of our troops around. I suspect I'd put the Wraith Blades in there to transport them and get them up into melee a lot faster, but I'm not 100% sure. And if you do decide to drop Uriel and pick up some Storm Guardians, that's who I would put in there to get them to objectives quickly with a little bit extra protection that they don't really get, and they don't get blown off the table. So let me know what you guys think of this list down in the comments below. We've got a lot of stuff still to cover in this video, but that is the basic structure of the army. Next, let's talk about how to paint them and get them tabletop ready. Getting this army tabletop ready will be both simple and complicated at the same time. They are painted in one of the worst colors to paint, which I can tell you I have experience with. I just painted an armature all yellow. It looks really cool. It was really annoying to get there, though. Because of that, and the color scheme of Vianden, we're painting yellow as the main color with blue as the accent color. It does look really good once you're done, but it takes a while to get there. And if you decide not to go that direction, you have a lot of different options that you can do because there were multiple craft worlds involved. You can do the green and gold of Biel-Tan, or pretty much any other color scheme you want. My little brother wanted red and blue with white accents, so that's what we did, and his craft world Eldar looked really, really good. And having faced them multiple times on tabletop, they fit in really well. I do have to base them still. I'm still learning how to base properly. The channel-specific army is the first basing I've done that actually looks like really good. So I'm probably going to take some of that and learn. My white scars are going to be an interesting one because it's going to be the first time I'm dealing with a lot of grass. And I need to avoid using just grass tufts to make them fit in. I have an idea of how I'm going to make it work. We're going to see if it'll pull off the way I hope it will. But yeah, we've got a lot of really cool things coming that way as well, so stay tuned. Starting next year, we've got probably going to open with the video about that army itself, as well as a battle report versus their most hated foes, the forces of Zeech and the Thousand Suns. But now to get back on track, painting wise, like I said, yellow and blue with a little bit of white mixed in there, they're going to be a pretty simple looking color scheme, really hard to execute. On top of that, basing wise, because they're on a completely desolate planet, you're not going to have a lot of plant life left. There's some references to leftover, some remaining like stumps and logs and a few patches of grass here and there, but a lot of what you're going to be doing is just dirt and rocks. So it shouldn't be a hard basing scheme to do. Dirt and rocks is mostly what I did for the Night Wardens and House Hestia to make them look all unified there. It didn't actually take me too long. It usually takes me about an hour to base a larger unit like an armature, but it has a lot of stuff that can be done with it. And honestly, the only things I have left to paint are the bigger knights. They're going to be a lot more work, but basing them should be still pretty simple once I get all of like the rocks painted and things like that. But yeah, painting is going to be super easy and super simple with some skill. Using yellow, make sure you base coat in pink. Doing that gives you a lot better coverage and makes it so you don't have to cover your model with thick layers of paint in order to get that yellow to stand out, especially if you prime in black, which I do recommend. Priming in black and then doing a base coat of pink and then yellow means that typically you're only going to need 2 layers of yellow before it looks really, really clean, versus the 5 or 6 you'd need if you don't do that pink layer. Next, just since we did it out of order, let's talk about how much this is going to cost you to build. And I think it's going to surprise you. Now, because we are using a lot of really big units like the Avatar of Cain, the Wave Serpent, the Warwalkers, the Wraith Knight, and all of that kind of stuff, we end up with a surprisingly low cost for the Eldar. That and a lot of their infantry and baseline units aren't that expensive. So in the retail cost, which is based off of Warhammer.com, it's the same price you get at your local Warhammer store. It's going to run you about $1,162 as of right now. If there's any price changes or anything like that, it may affect that price a little bit, but that's going to be your ballpark, right around $1,200. which for a lore accurate list is not bad, especially given how expensive Prince Uriel is if you try and find him on eBay. For Prince Uriel himself, you're going to be looking at about $200 just by himself. If you were to pivot, drop him and add some Storm Guardians, that would drop you to almost exactly $1,000. So, like I said, if you want to go that direction, I have no problem with that, especially if you're wanting to run in a tournament or tabletop contest of any kind. It makes sense to do that. Now, for the value cost, we went to mostly Wargame Portal. We did have to find some stuff on Amazon, and there were a few things on Amazon only that you could find, and that was the Corsairs. The Corsairs were really hard to track down, but in the end, I think they turned out pretty well. You aren't going to get a massive savings on this, unfortunately, but it's going to run you $1,106.49. So still not terrible for an army. Just under 2 points per dollar, which isn't fantastic, but given the current state of Warhammer, that's not too bad. Usually we're expecting to see $1,300 to $1,400 on these lists as we do them, and I'm terrified to do the AdMech, which is why we haven't done them yet. They're going to hurt. Now, if you were to go the fluffy route, this is a route that you can go with it not being tournament legal, because we're going to be sourcing a lot of stuff from Etsy or 3D printing and filling out our units that way in order to give us the proper feel for games at home or maybe your game store. Well, in this case, saving a significant chunk of change. So the big changes we're going to get from this fluffy list is, first, we're going to go to Etsy and we're going to pick up ourselves Prince Uriel, and we're going to pick up the 2 units of Corsairs. Etsy has a lot of 3D prints and sculpts as proxies for all of these that are fantastic and will save us a lot of money. Next, we're going to take our normal Farseer, and just to make him look super fancy and fit the character, we're going to bring in Eldrad Uthran to represent our Farseer. The Eldrad he's just a cooler model. He looks a lot cleaner and crisper, has a lot more detail than the normal Farseer. Don't get me wrong, the normal Farseer is still pretty cool, but Eldrad is very clearly the top Farseer in his craft world. And I want to represent that with our Farseer, make sure everyone knows he's in charge. So, with that brings our fluffy list total to $921.38. So, if you're not trying to make this tournament legal, I would definitely go that route. There's a lot of proxies you can find on Etsy or eBay that give you this proper feel without making it too expensive. So that would be my recommendation for sure. So now we've talked about how much this is going to cost. We've talked about how you're going to paint it, what the army looks like. Last, let's finish this up with tactics and talk about what this would look like on the tabletop as a player. It is almost Christmas time, and we've got some great deals for you on my website, www.tylertartar.com, where you can get some amazing merch from this channel, as well as merch from all of my book series that you can see behind me, and the books. We've got a lot of really, really cool different things you can get there, between stickers, and we had a custom knife done for one of my series as well. And with all of that, we're going to do something really special this holiday season. If you order between November 28th, which is Black Friday, and December 31st, which is the end of the year, you'll get 15% off of anything on my website. On top of that, you do get free shipping on anything over $60 as well. So make sure you check that out. Once again, that's 15% off anything on my website with an order, and if you get over $60 worth, you get free shipping as well. We do only ship to the United States for now, but if you're international with the books, there's ways I can figure out how to get that to work. And the t-shirts, those will get shipped internationally as well. So make sure you go check those out, and let me know if you guys have any fun suggestions for merch or anything like that. In the current Aeldari Codex, we have a specific issue we run into with the Avatar of Cain. There's only certain detachments that can actually activate him and have him on the tabletop. So in order to do this, we had to go with the Aspect Host, which is okay. I like the Aspect Host detachment. It is pretty strong, especially with what we're running, but it doesn't have as much zhuzh as I like. As you can tell, I like very specific detachments that play into the abilities of what I have. It's one of the big beefs I have with the White Scars as they sit currently. There's not really a good detachment for them that really lets them be the White Scars. We're running Raven Guard detachments with the Night Wardens, which I think will work pretty well. I still have yet to actually field it on a tabletop in an actual fight, but I like where it's going. I like the direction that it should be able to be used. So with that, it's going to give us a bunch of different options that we can do on the tabletop as the Aspect Host attachment. Typically, I would be using anything Wraith as my bulk center line, and then use things like the Rangers and the Corsairs to check off objectives and move and flank. Using the Wave Serpent, this may be better as well. Or you can use them to get your Wraith Blades up into combat so that you can get them into the fight a lot faster and really cause some damage to your enemy. So there will be different ways you can play this depending on who you're playing. Obviously, I wouldn't play the Wraith Blades in the Wave Serpent and throw them up in the front lines if I were going up against, say, Imperial Knights, just because Eldar can be glass cannons. So I would be playing for points that in that game, trying to pull them out and separate them so that some of my more punchy units like my Wraith Knight and my Wraith Lord can take them out. But there's a lot of different things you can do to really bring this to the tabletop and play it the way you see in the novel. In the novel, there's a lot of last stands and hold back and picking off small objectives throughout the book, which I did like. It was a very potential narrative campaign building book that gives you a lot of cool things to work with. So I would definitely look at that and see if that's something you're interested in doing as well. Now, if you think I missed something or think I need to change something, let me know in the comments below. All of us love to see your feedback and suggestions on what we could do better with these lists, or something that might be a little bit more meta. I'm not a meta player, personally. I like narratives, but knowing what the meta is super helpful for all of us to learn and to grow, and maybe adjust our lists to better supplement that. So, once again, let me know in the comments below. If you have a different faction you would like to bring to the tabletop, let me know in the comments below as well. We're trying to get through as many of these as we possibly can. It is partially time dependent on me being able to read the book that we're tied to. We have Iron Warriors coming up next. And finally, one more big thank you to W Energy for being my first and strongest partner. I've loved working with them so far, and they've brought a lot of fun to this channel and a lot of energy to my life as well. And don't forget the request for your custom chapter. If you have a custom chapter, custom craft world, or even a custom character in your Warhammer 40k army, I want to know about them, because we're going to be doing a fun Your Army, Your Story series that helps me as an author have some fun with it and bring Warhammer 40k to my writing for a single video covering your custom chapter and craft world. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.